Good afternoon, everybody. I am simply excited to be here with you today. And yes, this is our very first episode of Mindful Moments podcast. So, welcome into the room. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Um, we're going to just be talking about a few things today related to some of the topics that we will have here on Mindful Moments podcast. And we are simply excited to be here. So let me start by saying that this is something that, you know, I have been asked to do time and time and time and time and time again. And here we are finally ready to do it. And so I'm so excited. Yes, I'm going to play with the mic just a little bit. I did practice before just to make sure that everything was good and ready to go. But y'all know how I go on the first episode of your podcast. So I just want to be real and transparent today. I want to welcome you into the room. I want to create this space with you all where you feel welcome, where you feel like, you know what, I can ask Dr. Watts anything that it is that I want to ask her, and knowing that she will address all of the things and much more. So thank you for being here with me today. The plan is to kind of go live on Sundays right now. That may change because many of you know that I am a mental health therapist. But let me go ahead and introduce myself before we get started because some people don't know me. We are broadcasting live on many platforms, and I just want to make sure that we are, certain and sure about um, that people know me and that you feel welcome when you step in here. I am, again, Dr. Watts. I am a mental health therapist, a native right here in the Lansing, Michigan area. Yes, I'm a native of Michigan and proud of it. So many of you would call that a Michigander. With that being said, I am so very pleased to be in this space that God has called me to for quite some time. And obviously, we do things when, the time is right. And right now, the time is right. So, several months ago, I announced to the social media world that, hey, this is what I'm going to be doing. And so, thank you to those who responded. Thank you to those who pushed me to this purpose. Thank you for those who follow me and, take the advice given on each platform that I am on. I know that this is a calling. Many times people ask me, Dr. Watts, why and what made you go into therapy? Why are you I'm sorry, not a physical therapist. Funny part about that, I did work with physical therapists, the best team around, for some years, physical therapists and occupational therapists, but I am a mental health therapist. So when people ask me that, like, what is the purpose? Like, what is your purpose? And how did you know that this is what you were supposed to? So I tell people something simple as this. This is not a job for me. This is not a career for me. This is a lifestyle for me. And so, what pushed me into becoming a mental health therapist is I always tell this story. But let me tell this story first, because remember, this is moment of transparency and moment of just truth, where we all can kick back, lay back, have fun, and talk about these conversations or topics or things that we see as, you know, um, a problem in society or within individuals overall. So for me, I can remember as a little girl, with I have two other siblings and my brother and my sister, but my sister and I, we used to play this game, and it was literally called, I named it, I believe I was the person who named it, maybe not, maybe it was my sister, but I'm going to take credit for it. But in this role, in the game that we played, we named it Business. And so in business, we would do any and everything, and that would look different each time that we met. But for me, I would play like this, now that I know what it is, but like this doctor person who would be in, her white coat, her little notebook and her pen. and being so particular about meeting with a person. So not only did I have the pen, you guys, and the notepad, but I would literally sit down. I would have my siblings acting like a patient of mine. And so as they were a patient of mine, I was like, tell me more, like basically tell me more. How can I help you? What can I do? And I just figured out their life. I fixed their life in that moment. And so that made me more like, I think it developed character early on. So, but what I realize now as an adult is that it was a calling that God was calling me to. So, with that being said, I'm now a mental health therapist. My background is a clinical background of social work. But with that degree, I was able to open up my own private practice. And so here I am. I'm in this area. I do treat within the area and surrounding areas as well. And I'm ecstatic to be here with you guys. The name of my podcast is Mindful Moments. I welcomed you to Mindful Moments right when we started the film today. And mindful moments for me is talking about those things that is uncomfortable, talking about those things that, you know, those ideas and those feelings and emotions that may reside within your head. And sometimes they may lie on your heart, and you don't know how to exactly express what you're feeling. You don't feel like, okay, well, who can I talk to about this crazy thought, which is a stigma word? And we'll talk about that on the episode, not today, but at some point. But a word, who can I talk to about how I'm feeling? Who can I talk to about what I'm going through? And to validate these feelings, and to, say, hey, it's okay that I'm not okay today, but this is how I'm feeling right now. So learning how to navigate out of that space in your mindset, sometimes it's hard to do, right? Because you don't know where to start. And so you're going to be able to do that with me right here, because we're going to talk about it. And sometimes that's half the battle, you guys, is like, we don't have anyone to talk to about it, right? We don't understand what we're going through. We don't know what we're feeling. We don't know what or how long this feeling is going to last. And we don't know where to start. We don't know which resource to tap into. So I'm going to help you. I'm going to give you resources and tools here on Mindful Moment Podcast and let you know, hey, it's okay to have that thought. But what's not okay is that people try to make you feel like a certain way because you feel a certain way, if that makes sense. Okay. And what I mean by people make you feel a certain way is simply that. Like, sometimes people like to keep us in this like little box, is what I call it. I call it a box. And in this box, and I've used this parable many times, if you will, but I've used this, and what I explain about the box, you guys, is that people have an idea of how they want us to operate. And as long as we do not identify that, hey, I'm not operating in my own way, they'll keep us right there. Right? So that comes with self identity and knowing that you are enough. And I have said these things many times. So I'm ecstatic. I'm ecstatic. I am so ecstatic to be here. And there's so much that we're going to dive into. So I'm not going to give you all of the eggs today, but I want to talk about mental health. I want to talk about mental health with you and what it is, what it looks like, and the statistics in a manner of. So I pulled up some data related to like 2023. Um, and I know that it's much higher now. However, but sometimes we don't even know what is mental health, right? People are using that word so like loosely, like they're just using it. And sometimes it's like, it's sad for me to see, because I'm like, people really have mental health issues. Do we know what this really includes for someone? Do we really know what their battles and struggles are? Right? So, first, I'm going to define what mental health is. Mental health includes our emotional, psychological, and social well being. Again, it includes our emotional, our psychological, and social well being, right? What is that? That's pretty much like everything. Our mental state, how we behave, how we respond, how we react, and what we think and what we feel. It affects how we think, how we feel, and how we act. What are we demonstrating? Right? It also helps us to determine how we will handle and relate to others, how we will handle stress, different stressors that we have to deal with from day to day. I was just having a conversation with, my husband actually, who is like my number one supporter. And he will be on the show at some point. But today I just kind of wanted to do like a little intro type of thing with you all. But, I was speaking with my husband. I told my husband, it is so sad that like we go to the grocery store, you guys, and I mean, how many can, you know, meet me where I'm going to give you this example, right? Like, how many of you can understand what I'm about to say? So what I was telling him is like, babe, like you can't even go to like your local McDonald's or, grocery store or, anywhere in the community and not deal with someone who struggles with a mental illness, right? So for people like me who have like this discernment or this clinical background or, you know, intuition per se about themselves, right? Like some people don't even understand like what's going on with the individual. So what happens if you don't understand? You don't show grace. You don't show grace or mercy on someone, right? You don't show them grace because you don't understand what their battles are or what they're going through. Okay. So hopefully that definition helps you to understand that, hey, it looks different for everyone on top of that. Okay. So like what is mental why is this so important? Why is it so important, Dr. Watts? Why are we talking about this? Why is mental health important for your overall health? Let's talk about that a little bit because individuals don't understand that if your mental health status is not maintained, if it is not under control, if it is not being, seen regularly, let me tell you, by a professional, not your friend, not always your friend, not always your friend. Let me go back because we have to find a safe place, right? But finding a safe place and finding a safe place in a reliable resource are two different things, two complete different things. Mm-hmm. So, what that means is we have to be very careful. We have to be careful. We have to be mindful. Okay. Mental and physical health are equally important components of your overall health. Let me give you an example. Depression increases the risk for many types of physical health problems, particularly long lasting conditions like diabetes. So, if you struggle in that area, that's an opportunity to kind of dive a little bit deeper, right? But this can be an underlying condition or a heart disease and or stroke. Okay. Similarly, the presence of chronic conditions can increase the risk of mental illness. So if you have either of these type of physical issues that you deal or struggle with, this can increase the risk of you having a mental illness, one or another, and everything looks different. Okay. Now, this is a question that a lot of my clients may ask or seek, you know, answers for because they feel that just because I have a mental health condition or I'm struggling mentally, which is another term that people use loosely a little bit without diving deep into it, but we people ask like can my mental health change over time? Like is this something that I'm going to struggle with for the rest of my life? That's a loaded question, right? And it looks different for everybody. And the reason that I say it looks different for everyone is primarily because what are you doing related to your mental health status to help it, right? How are you coping? How are you handling it? Who are your support persons? Who are your support persons? Excuse me. Who's there for you? Are you able to confide in someone and trust that, hey, they're going to give you the information that you need? Not just telling you something that you want to hear, but something that you need to hear, right? So it's important to find a reliable resource. God is the source, but He also allows for many people to help you professionally. And those are your doctors, those are your therapists, those are your, social workers, those are your, whatever it is that you need, those are your experts in these different areas. Yes, it can change over time though. Okay, depending on what you're doing, it is important to remember that a person's mental health can change over time. Remember that it can change depending on many factors though. When the demands placed on a person exceed their resources and coping abilities, their mental health could be impacted. Keep that in mind. For example, I will give you an example, and I will give you a lot of examples, okay? If someone is working long hours, caring for a relative or someone very close to you or someone that's experiencing an economic hardship, they may experience a poor mental health, right? So, why did I use that as an example? Because many people do that. Many people say, hey, you know what? Let me do this, let me do that, and then let me do that as well. Right? Because I have some yes peoples. How many people like watching this broadcast today are yes people? Right? Yes people to me is like a person who says, like, I can do it even when you don't have the capacity to do it because you're a people pleaser. Another terminology. Okay? No, it's okay to say no. So the nugget that I'm going to give you today, it's okay to say no. If you don't have the capacity to do it, then don't do it because you can't do it right now. A no is not a no forever, but it's definitely a no for right now. Okay? It's called creating boundaries. Creating boundaries, which is another topic we're going to talk about. Not today, but on the show at some point. Okay? How common are mental illnesses? Mental illnesses are among the most common health conditions in the United States. And some of the statistics that I'm going to give you today are literally from 2023. Okay, we're in 24, early in 24, but I know it's significantly higher. But we're going to rely upon this information because 23 is just what last year, right? A month ago, several months ago. Okay, so know that. Here's a stat, a statistic. More than 1 in 5 US adults live with a mental illness. 1 in 5 US adults live with a mental illness. So literally, yes, that could be you. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the fifth person struggles with a mental illness, right? So identifiers, being able to understand this information is going to help you to understand that that person wasn't just upset or angry with you and their behavioral pattern was exacerbated for some reason or another. No, they kind of struggle. They may have, excuse me, an underlying condition. Okay. Another one. Over 1 in 5 youth ages 13 to 18, either currently or at some point during their life, have had a seriously debilitating mental illness. That is 1 in 5 youth ages 13 to 18. I'm going to stay right there just for a second. What are we seeing, you all? What are we seeing in society today? We are seeing our youth in a very devastating mindset, which leads them to do very devastating things to self and or others. Okay? It is real. And 1 in 5 of them may have a serious, debilitating mental illness, such as PTSD. Depression is high and amongst the youth population right now. Okay? We have to keep these things in mind and we have to be attentive to their behaviors and what they're doing and dive deeper. It is our obligation to dive deeper. If we can't do surface things anymore, although things are happening so abruptly anymore, we have to be sure that we dive deeper to make sure that this youth is okay, to make sure that your adult friend or cousin or brother or sister is okay. It's our obligation to do so, okay? About 1 in 25 US adults lives with a serious mental illness, such as schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and major depression disorder, okay? You guys, mental illness is amongst us. We are in a mental health crisis. And there is not enough. There's not enough educators. There's not enough therapists or clinicians. But for those that are in this field, for those individuals who are not in the field even, and taking time to make sure that the next person is okay, thank you. I want to seriously say thank you from the bottom of my heart, from clinician to clinician, from clinician to person who is not a clinician. Thank you. I appreciate you. And I mean that, because you saved someone's life. So thank you for being the change. What causes mental illness? What causes mental illness? This is another big question that comes up. And there is no single cause of mental illness. A number of factors can contribute to the risk of mental illness, such as, I'm going to give you some examples. Okay. Meaning it can be many things. It could be adverse childhood experiences, such as trauma or a history of abuse, child abuse, sexual abuse, witnessing violence. Or it can be experiences related to other ongoing chronic medical conditions, such as cancer or diabetes. Those are some major medical chronic, diseases that individuals go through, or conditions, excuse me. So keep that in mind as well. Okay. Some biological factors can even be a contributor, or chemical imbalances in the brain. Okay. So sometimes what that means is that sometimes the brain is not, it doesn't function, or it's not wired, the neurons and etc. So we get into the analogy of that, in terms of how someone is, I'm going to use the word wired per se, right? Like how is their thought? Like, and is this genetic? Did their parents struggle with this? Did the grandparents of the parents struggle with depression or schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder? Right? So we have to, it's always a why to the why. Understand that there is always a why to the why. Okay. It could also be use of alcohol or drugs. So recreational things that we are not supposed to get into, a lot of times mental illness can be caused, or, attached to that. Okay. So sometimes you may hear something even, that a mental illness is alcohol induced, like depression, or in the health field there was alcohol induced dementia. So there's different variants in different things here. Okay. So I just want to kind of enlighten you guys with a lot of these things, because these are things that no one really talks about. This is the why to the why, the why to the how to the what. And then the conclusion, where do we go from here? So having feelings of loneliness or isolation is another thing. Okay. Some stats here, right? So I like to talk about, there's some myths as well. And a myth is that mental health issues can't affect me. Well, they can. 1 in 5 American adults experience a mental health condition in a given year. 1 in 6 young people have experienced a major depressive episode. 1 in 20 Americans have lived with a serious mental illness, such as schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, or major depression. So we have to be careful for those things that are true and for those things that are not true. Okay. So just to, end up the little stats about, or the, stats, statistics and things that we've spoken about today, you guys, about mental health. And I hope that it was helpful. Let's talk about just a little bit, some statistics of 2000 mental health statistics in 2023. Okay. Adults ages 35 to 44 also experienced the highest increase in mental health diagnosis. The highest. 45% reported a mental illness in 2023, compared with 31% in 2019. Listen at that statistic, okay? It is definitely trending up. So again, like I said, we're in a mental health crisis. We are in a mental health crisis, okay? Although adults ages 18 to 34 still reported the highest rate of mental illness at 50% in 2023. And that stat was given in November 1st, 2023. Okay. So it's important to know your statistics. It's important to know, the details related to it. It's important to know individuals are individual, and not to judge someone based upon what they go through, not to judge someone based off of them not based off of them having a lack of resource, because they don't know where to start. They don't know what it is. They don't know where it started, how it started. And all of a sudden, years later, they're dealing with this thing, right? They're dealing with this thing that they may call, sadness, or I can't get out of the bed. That might be depression. Oh, I haven't gotten out the bed. I haven't showered. I haven't really eaten or anything. Like, well, that may be like chronic depression, right? Or I come to church today or to my work today and, I'm putting on this smile, but dying on the inside, literally, because I feel that sense of hopelessness. Or maybe they're not smiling at all today. I encourage you and I challenge you to make sure that you are attentive to your surroundings, attentive to those who you love, attentive to those who you call friends, those that you work with. Understand that just because someone smiles every day doesn't mean that they don't have a story. Everyone has a story. Everyone has a story. What's yours? What's your story? Thank you so much for being here with me today. Again, on Mindful Moments podcast, we are going to explore and go deep into detail, conversations that you wanted to have, things that, may be unanswered, or just that thought that's just in your head that won't go away and you don't know where or how to release it. Okay. So this is where you're going to be able to do that. And I talk to y'all like y'all my family. You are my family. I don't want this to be, yeah, it might look formal and pretty where I am and whatnot, but this is an informal conversation. We are letting it out. We are being transparent. We are being ourselves. And I don't want you to be afraid to be yourself on Mindful Moments with Dr. Watts. I don't want you to do that. I don't want you to do that. I want this space to be a space where you feel comfortable. I want this space to be a space where you are informed. I want this space to be a space where you can ask your questions and feel that they are going to be answered in a timely fashion. I'm busy, but my purpose is you, right? My purpose is to make sure that you get all that you can get out of this show. All right. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to be on this call in this part of my journey. I'm just excited. I'm overwhelmed with joy. And we're going to talk about it, like I said, a lot of tough topics, some that relates to myself and some of the things where, even I struggled a little bit, even after having my recent baby. So I'm excited to talk about it, who is now 8 months and he is amazing and God sent. So I am happy, my husband and I both, and we cannot wait to dialogue with you here on Mindful Moment podcast. And here we go. Let's have a mindful conversation. I love each of you. And I'll be back. I'll be back next Sunday. See you guys. Thank you.